for being in the Ladies Gallery for this, I think, very important press conference. I wanted to express my concern that today's release of state report card scores, largely based on park tests that we no longer use, will further erode public trust and create confusion. Disproportionate and misleading scores create a perception that does not reflect the reality of our education system in Ohio. Ohio communities will be harmed by the perception of the scores that are created here. It's time to hit the pause button on the use of misleading and inaccurate testing results in Ohio education. Last year, we listened to the many parents and educators who expressed concerns about the park testing, taking away valuable education time and not accurately measuring student achievement. We hit the pause button on park testing. We no longer budgeted for any park testing. Now the results of those tests, recognized widely as flawed, will potentially be used against schools. The Senate Advisory Committee on Testing, led by Senator Peggy Lehner, made the following recommendation in April 2015. Wait 3 years until people are comfortable with new state and Common Core standards before using these scores. I'm disappointed that this recommendation was not followed. Representative Christina Wagner attempted to address the concerns about the effect of inaccurate scores in House Bill 420. When she filed her bill to exempt kids that opted out from calculations of report cards, she stated that schools should in no way be penalized for the numbers of students opting out. The House Education Committee heard testimony from school superintendents, education leaders that providing 2 sets of scores would only create more confusion for parents and add to communication difficulties, especially when they are faced this year with school levies. Very hard to explain what the reality is for their school district when the state reported totally different scores. The Ohio Department of Education determined to produce 2 sets of scores anyway, which is a mystery to me because they seem to have much more power than legislators. We didn't even need that bill for them to do that. The new federal requirements for ESSA no longer penalizes students for testing percentages. Parents rejected the park test and urged us not to use the misleading and inaccurate information yielded by them. Ohio parents asked us for safe harbor for students, safe harbor for educators, safe harbor for our school districts. We should not penalize communities from opting out. The impact of the confusing and inaccurate report on schools affects communities in a myriad of ways, from property taxes to jobs. Ohio parents are speaking to us, and it's time for us to listen. And I'd like to introduce State School Board Representative A.J. Wagner, and he and I have been in close communication with our education system to see how far we're off track. What recommendations do we need to listen to help Ohio get back and going in the right direction for all of our students, teachers, communities, and we have to stop this train that goes down this track now with inaccurate information that is going to be very harmful to kids, the school district, and the community. So, AJ?
Thank you, Representative. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you all for being here. Really do appreciate it. It was just such a lovely walk in the parking lot, somewhere down the street. Today, the Ohio Department of Education will release the final results of a $200 million calamity known as the PARCC test, the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. My colleague and I are here to denounce the Ohio School Report Cards distributed today and to urge students, parents, and communities to ignore them. These report cards are not just inaccurate, they are harmful to our children, our schools, and our communities. The PARCC test used to develop the Ohio School Report Card at an estimated cost of $200 million have not been properly vetted. These tests have not been tested. They were hastily designed and put into use without sufficient validation. More than 17,000 of the tests were questioned by school districts after the release of the preliminary results, and many of those appeals haven't even been resolved. Each PARCC, even PARCC admits that the 35% of the tests in Ohio that were taken by pencil and paper are going to have different results than the computer tests that were taken. Those different outcomes can be significant. In Illinois, the average was 7%, although in Baltimore, we saw it up to 14%. That is a significant difference and makes a huge difference in what a report card might tell us. These tests, and therefore the grades on the report card, violate standards of fairness. They include an unacceptable bias, a lack of equitable treatment in the testing process, inequality in outcomes of testing, and a loss of opportunity to learn. These grades were intended to be a simple measure of a complex system. In their simplicity, however, they explain nothing. They were intended to create accountability, yet partial accountability equals no accountability. Policymakers, including the school board and legislatures, have been exempted from any accountability for the entire system of education as we watched Ohio's scores on national exams and on national ratings plummet. We're here to ask students, again, students, parents, teachers, principals, superintendents, and citizens, to ask their representatives, state and federal, to end this expensive waste of effort before it does more damage to our children, our schools, and our communities.